Tomorrow, January 17th, 2026, the streets of San Francisco will witness something extraordinary. A procession will travel down Market Street, the heart of the city, carrying the spirit of one of its most beloved sons. Bob Weir, co-founder of the Grateful Dead, died just 1 week ago, but his homecoming celebration isn't a traditional funeral. It's called Homecoming, celebrating the life of Bobby Weir, and it reflects everything the man stood for: community, gratitude, and the belief that endings are just another form of beginning. From the Empire State Building lighting up in tie-dye colors to spontaneous memorials at the old Grateful Dead house on Ashbury Street, the world has been mourning. But tomorrow, in the city where it all began, thousands will gather to send Bobby off the way he would have wanted, not with tears alone, but with the collective heartbeat of the community he created. Background context 045-3 Comortvipe. To understand why this memorial matters so much, you need to understand Bob Weir's relationship with San Francisco. This wasn't just where he happened to live or where his band was based. This was the soil from which the Grateful Dead grew, the city that gave them their identity, and the place that Bob Weir helped define for generations. Bob Weir was born and raised in the Bay Area, and in the mid-1960s, he co-founded the Grateful Dead with Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, Bill Kreutzmann, and Ron Pigpen McKernan. NMA. He was just 16 years old when he met Jerry Garcia on New Year's Eve 1963 at Dana Morgan's music store in Palo Alto. By morning, they had decided to form a band. That band became Mother McCree's Uptown Jug Champions, then the Warlocks, and finally the Grateful Dead. The psychedelic rock band was a pioneer in the counterculture movement and built a devoted following, especially in San Francisco. NME. While other bands moved to Los Angeles or New York for fame and fortune, the Grateful Dead stayed rooted in San Francisco. They were the house band for Ken Kesey's Acid Tests. They played free concerts in Golden Gate Park. They lived communally on Ashbury Street in the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood, the epicenter of the 1960s counterculture revolution. But Bob Weir wasn't just a musician from San Francisco. He became part of the city's identity. For 60 years, he represented what made San Francisco special: creativity, community, nonconformity, and the belief that music could change consciousness and bring people together. On January 10, 2026, that 60-year journey came to an end. Bob Weir transitioned peacefully, surrounded by loved ones, after courageously beating cancer as only Bobby could, but ultimately succumbing to underlying lung issues. Media mass. He was 78 years old. Bobby had been diagnosed with cancer in July 2025, and he began treatment only weeks before returning to his hometown stage for a 3-night celebration of 60 years of music at Golden Gate Park. Media Mass, those Golden Gate Park shows in the summer of 2025 were emotional, soulful, and full of light. They weren't farewell concerts in the traditional sense. They were gifts, another act of resilience from an artist who chose to keep going by his own design, even as his body was failing. The memorial event. 3:45. Dr. 7th, 30. The memorial service planned for tomorrow is unlike anything you'd expect for a rock legend. The event, titled Homecoming, Celebrating the Life of Bobby Weir, is scheduled for 12:45 p.m. Saturday, January 17th at Civic Center Plaza, and it's free and open to the public. Bob Weir. But it's not just a memorial service. A procession will precede the gathering, traveling on Market Street from 7th and 9th Streets around 12:30 p.m. Rolling Stone. This procession, described as a hat tip on his way out, will travel 3 blocks down one of San Francisco's most iconic streets, right through the heart of the city that Bob Weir called home. A short sacred stop on his homecoming journey, the gathering will center on gratitude, remembrance, and togetherness, along with special tributes to honor Bobby, organizers said. Rolling Stone attendees are encouraged to enter through Fulton Plaza at 335 McAllister Street. The event is expected to run from 12:45 to approximately 2:30 p.m. Here's what makes this memorial truly different. Organizers emphasize that the event is intended as a communal remembrance rather than a concert, and there will be no live musical performances. Rolling Stone. For a man whose entire life was defined by music, for a guitarist who played thousands of concerts over 6 decades, this choice is profound. The organizers are saying, this isn't about the performance. It's about the people. It's about the community that Bob Weir's music created. This is a free public gathering honoring Bobby, whose music, spirit, and humanity shaped generations, their statement said. Together, we will pay tribute in the community and collective heartbeat that he created. Rolling Stone. That phrase, the collective heartbeat, captures something essential about what Bob Weir meant to his fans. The Grateful Dead didn't just perform for audiences, they created a shared experience, a communal heartbeat where the boundary between performer and audience dissolved. The Deadheads weren't just fans, they were participants in something larger than themselves. Saturday's memorial is expected to draw fans from around the country, many of whom trace formative moments of their lives to Weir's music and the community it fostered. Bob Weir people are traveling from across America to be there, to stand in Civic Center Plaza, to be part of this collective heartbeat one more time. Immediate response to his death, 7:30 at 10. The response to Bob Weir's death has been overwhelming, stretching from coast to coast. The Empire State Building in New York City was lit in tie-dye colors over the weekend in his honor. Remind magazine. Think about that for a moment. One of America's most iconic buildings, in the heart of New York City, lit up in psychedelic colors to honor a guitarist from San Francisco. That's the reach and impact Bob Weir had. In San Francisco, a memorial has been growing throughout the weekend at the former Grateful Dead house on Ashbury Street. Remind magazine fans have been gathering spontaneously, leaving flowers, candles, notes, and mementos. They've been playing Grateful Dead songs on guitars and speakers, sharing stories, crying, laughing, and celebrating Bobby's life the way he lived it, together, in community. Rob Mayerle, a San Francisco resident, captured it perfectly when he told reporters, "I think he means a lot for SF and what he did for the community here. It's sad for music and SF." Jordan Feinstein, a band leader, spoke for thousands when he said, "The entire Dead world was devastated last night. The last one of the Grateful Dead singers is gone." That statement hits hard. Jerry Garcia died in 1995. Pigpen McKernan died in 1973. Now Bob Weir, the last of the Grateful Dead's vocalists, is gone. An era has truly ended. But the tributes have come from more than just fans. California Governor Gavin Newsom called him a true son of California. Paul McCartney shared a heartfelt tribute on Instagram, revealing their last meeting at the Sphere in Las Vegas and a potential collaboration that never came to be. Bill Kreutzmann, the Grateful Dead's drummer and now the sole surviving founding member, penned a poignant essay honoring his bandmate of 60 years. Musicians across genres have been paying tribute. Leftover Salmon performed a complete set of Grateful Dead covers in Alaska. A special tribute concert called Howling Wolves, a tribute to Bobby Weir, has been announced for Saturday night at the Warfield in San Francisco, after the memorial service. Pop-up memorial jams have been happening in iconic New York venues. The musical community is mourning one of its own. The real facts and context, 10 or 12:30. Let's talk about what made Bob Weir's life and career so significant, and why this memorial is so important. Bob Weir was particularly well known for his rhythm guitar riffs and songwriting, NME. But that simple statement doesn't capture how revolutionary his playing was. Weir's rhythm guitar style was influenced by hard bop pianist McCoy Tyner, incorporating complex jazz chord voicings that sounded more like keyboard work than traditional guitar. Phil Lesh once described his playing as quirky, whimsical, and goofy, while also being astonished and delighted by his musical choices. Weir wrote or co-wrote some of the Grateful Dead's most enduring songs: Sugar Magnolia, Truckin', Playing in the Band, One More Saturday Night, Cassidy, and Weather Report Suite. These songs became anthems, defining moments at Dead concerts and beloved classics that have been performed thousands of times. The Grateful Dead's career spanned 3 decades, from 1965 to 1995. They performed over 300 concerts and sold over 35 million albums. They survived health scares, drug issues, the deaths of founding members, and dramatic shifts in the music industry. Through it all, they remained vital and relevant, building a devoted following that transcended generations. When Jerry Garcia died in 1995, many assumed that would be the end. But Bob Weir refused to let the music die. With Dead & Company, he helped keep the Grateful Dead's cultural footprint alive long after the group disbanded in 1995. NME Weir performed with the other ones, later known as The Dead. He formed Rat Dog, further with Phil Lesh, and Bobby Weir and Wolf Brothers, with whom he performed with the backing of symphony orchestras at venues like the Kennedy Center and the Royal Albert Hall. In 2015, he joined with former Grateful Dead members Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann, along with John Mayer, Oteil Burbridge, and Jeff Chimenti to form Dead & Company. Dead & Company became one of the highest-grossing touring acts in America. They played residencies at the Sphere in Las Vegas, using cutting-edge technology to create immersive visual experiences. Bob Weir proved that the Grateful Dead's music could speak to new generations, that improvisation and community could still matter in the modern music industry. Weir joined the Grateful Dead at age 17, making him the youngest member of the band, and 60 years later, he continued performing, keeping the band's music alive by playing in a reunion concert this past summer at Golden Gate Park after being diagnosed with cancer. Remind magazine Weir and the Grateful Dead received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Remind magazine. He received the 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award at the Americana Honors and Awards. He received Kennedy Center Honors. In 2017, he was appointed a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador for his efforts to fight climate change. But perhaps more importantly, Bob Weir created community. He showed that music could be more than entertainment. It could be a spiritual practice, a way of building connection, a path to transcendence. Analysis 1230-1430. So why does this memorial matter? Why is it designed the way it is, and what does it tell us about Bob Weir's legacy? First, the decision to make it free and open to the public is essential. The Grateful Dead always had a complex relationship with commerce. They encouraged fans to tape their shows and trade recordings. They prioritized access over exclusivity. They built their following through word of mouth and communal experiences, not through traditional marketing. A ticketed, invitation-only memorial would have betrayed everything Bob Weir stood for. By making it free and public, by inviting everyone to Civic Center Plaza, the organizers are honoring Bob's commitment to community and accessibility. Second, the absence of live musical performances is profound. This isn't about replacing Bob Weir or performing his songs one more time. It's about acknowledging that something is truly gone, that there's a space that can't be filled. The silence, or rather the presence of spoken tributes and shared memories instead of music, makes the loss more real and more poignant. Third, the procession down Market Street transforms the memorial from a static event into a journey. Market Street is one of San Francisco's main arteries, running from the Embarcadero to the Castro. By processing down the street, by moving through the city, the memorial becomes a way of saying, Bob Weir belongs to San Francisco, and San Francisco belongs to Bob Weir. The city itself is participating in the farewell. Fourth, the timing, exactly 1 week after his death, creates a sacred interval. In Jewish tradition, there's a week-long mourning period called Shiva. In many cultures, there are specific periods between death and burial or memorial. This week has allowed the initial shock to settle, for spontaneous memorials to grow, for people to travel to San Francisco, for the community to come together. Tomorrow's gathering will be a collective exhale, a communal acknowledgement of loss. The phrase that keeps appearing in official statements is a short sacred stop on his homecoming journey. This language is deliberate. It's not saying Bob Weir has reached his final destination. It's saying he's still traveling, still on the road, which is exactly how Deadheads think about death. In the Dead's worldview, informed by Eastern philosophy and psychedelic experience, death isn't an ending, but a transition. The homecoming isn't about finality. It's about return, about completing one cycle and beginning another. Their actual achievements. 1430-16 Deaths. Let's step back and acknowledge what Bob Weir actually accomplished in his 78 years. He helped create and sustain one of the most influential bands in American music history. The Grateful Dead didn't just make music, they pioneered a business model, created a subculture, and showed that a band could maintain artistic integrity while building a massive following. Bob Weir was a guitarist, vocalist, storyteller, and founding member of the Grateful Dead, a guiding force whose unique artistry reshaped American music. Medium as his rhythm guitar work influenced countless musicians. His songwriting created anthems that have been performed tens of thousands of times. His commitment to improvisation showed that rock music could be as spontaneous and adventurous as jazz. He was a longtime vegetarian and advocate for animal rights, involved with causes like Farm Sanctuary and the Rainforest Action Network. He served on the board of Tribal Planet and was appointed a UN Goodwill Ambassador for his climate change efforts. He told Billboard in 2017, I'd also like to see people reflexively consider the good of the planet in the choices they regularly make. He wrote a children's book with his sister about the African rainforest. He was profiled in the 2015 Netflix documentary, The Other One, The Long Strange Trip of Bob Weir. He performed with symphony orchestras. He collaborated with artists across genres. He never stopped creating, never stopped exploring, never stopped serving the music. Bob Weir often spoke of a 300-year legacy, determined to ensure the songbook would endure long after him. Media mass. That vision, thinking not in terms of his own lifetime but in terms of centuries, shows the scope of his ambition. He wasn't just making music for the moment, he was building something that would outlast him, that would continue to bring people together, that would keep creating community and connection for generations he would never meet. He is survived by his wife, Natasha, and his daughters, Monet and Chloe. His final months reflected the same spirit that defined his life. After being diagnosed with cancer in July, he began treatment only weeks before returning to his hometown stage for a 3-night celebration of 60 years of music at Golden Gate Park. Media mass. Those performances were not farewells but gifts, another act of resilience from an artist choosing to keep going by his own design, right up until the end. Bigger lessons. 16 Quine, 17 and 15. What can we learn from Bob Weir's life and from this memorial? First, community matters more than individual achievement. Bob Weir could have pursued solo fame, could have tried to be the star. Instead, he chose collaboration, community, and the collective experience. The memorial honors this by emphasizing togetherness over performance, by making it free and accessible, by inviting everyone to participate. Second, the journey is the destination. Bob Weir spent 60 years on the road, constantly touring, constantly performing, constantly creating. He didn't retire to rest on his laurels. Even while battling cancer, he was still making music. The idea of homecoming as a journey, rather than an arrival, captures his entire philosophy. Keep moving, keep playing, keep exploring. Third, legacy is about what you inspire in others, not just what you create yourself. Bob Weir didn't just write songs. He showed people what was possible when you approached music with fearlessness and openness. He created a template for how a band could operate, how a community could form around music, how improvisation could create magic. Fourth, there's profound dignity in showing up, even when your body is failing. Those Golden Gate Park concerts, played while Bob was undergoing cancer treatment, knowing they might be his last. That's courage. That's dedication. That's love for the music and the community that sustained him. Finally, endings aren't final. As Bob Weir's family said, and so we send him off the way he sent so many of us on our way, with a farewell that isn't an ending, but a blessing. Media mass, conclusion 1715 Pat 18, Pat 6. Tomorrow, when the procession moves down Market Street, when thousands gather at Civic Center Plaza, when tributes are spoken and memories are shared, it won't be the end of Bob Weir's story. It will be another chapter in a story that began on New Year's Eve 1963 and continues as long as people keep playing his songs, keep gathering in community, keep believing that music can change consciousness and create connection. One fan at the Ashbury Street Memorial said it perfectly. The legacy of the music will live forever. And that's the truth. Bob Weir may have played his final show at Golden Gate Park in July 2025. He may have taken his last breath on January 10th, 2026, but the music doesn't stop. The community doesn't dissolve. The collective heartbeat continues. Tomorrow's memorial isn't about saying goodbye. It's about acknowledging that Bob Weir is heading down the road, that long, strange road that the Dead always sang about. And somewhere down that road, as Paul McCartney promised in his tribute, we'll see him again. There is no final curtain here, not really. Only the sense of someone setting off again. Media mass. So to all the Deadheads heading to San Francisco tomorrow, to everyone who will gather at Civic Center Plaza, to everyone who has ever been moved by Bob Weir's music. This is your chance to be part of the collective heartbeat one more time, to stand together in the city where it all began, to honor a man who gave 60 years of his life to creating community through music. Fare thee well, Bobby. See you down the road.